Megabonk cracks a secret AAA studio keep forgetting. Games don't need spectacle. They need respect for your time, fairness, and agency. It popped with almost no marketing, while billion-dollar projects keep faceplanting. Everyone chasing polish, but somewhere in the pipeline, heart gets sanded off. Meanwhile, a goofy, physics-driven toy with chunky visuals feels more alive than a prestige epic. The internet didn't just laugh at it, they kept playing it. Hey, I'm Matt from the Gaming Mattress, and today we're talking about Megabonk. So why are players connecting more with the small weird ones? Let's start with the old rule promised and how Megabonk quietly broke it. For a decade we were told the formula: bigger maps, longer campaigns, higher pixel count, boom, guaranteed banger. That worked when spectacles was rare. Now it's homework. You boot a modern blockbuster and before you swung a sword, you've ticked 3 tutorials, opened 6 submenus and accepted a loyalty program. It's impressive, but you feel like a passenger in your own game. Take MindsEye. On paper it's stacked. Flashy cinematic, near future cars, serious mocap. In practice, critically panned, sitting at a 37 on Metacritic with users even harsher. The common thread in reviews: great to look at, not great to play. Rigid missions design, janky AI, a sandbox that feels fenced off. It's a showroom with a velvet rope between you and the steering wheel. Then Assassin's Creed Shadows land with the kind of production value only Ubisoft can conjure. Critics give it an 81, but players park it at 6.2. That gap matters. It's a sound of "I respect the craft" colliding with "I'm not having fun." Even fans who finished it describe the loop as repetitive and the runtime as stretched. When the audience called Japan gorgeous, but the moment-to-moment feels like an errand, you've got a design problem, not a graphic problem. As budgets climb, risk tolerance drops, design mutates into comedy math, systems get layered to justify a $70 price tag, not to create better play. Tutorials over-explain, difficulties curves flatten so nothing spikes engagement, and every mechanic gets a light version to keep everyone on the same path. The result is content volume without surprise. You admire the craft, you don't crave another session. Players feel that. They can smell when a loop is built to occupy them, not challenge them. They notice when progression is a meter, not mastery. That's why AAA fatigue isn't some anti-complexity tantrum. It's a pushback against time theft. People want agency and clarity, not a checklist. Now contrast that with Megabonk. No prestige cutscenes, no endless trees of perks, just a handful of rules that never lie, physics that are silly but consistent, and failure that teaches you instead of scolding you. You react, you learn, you improve. The game trusts you to find the rhythm. That restraint feels radical next to bloated checklists because it centers the thing AAA forgot to sell: play. So what happens when a game trims the fat and treats you like it trusted you? You stop counting hours and start chasing skills. You share clips for the discovery, not the loot drop, and suddenly the smallest game in the room now owns the conversation. Megabonk works because it plays by rules you can read at a glance. Hit at the right angle, you rocket forward. With the timing, you slam the wall. There's no invisible crit chance bailing you out or rubber band AI snapping you back. Pause, effect. You feel it in your hand before you understand it in your head. That's why one more try turns into 15. Your last mistake is obvious and the fix is in reach. People call it chaotic, surface level, sure, goofy physics, chunky art, quick rounds, but the chaos is legible. Every bounce, slide and bonk follow the same internal math. You're not guessing, you're calibrating. That predictability is the magic. It builds trust fast, and trust turns failure from punishment into feedback. You don't rage quit because nothing feels cheap. You misjudge momentum. Next run, you won't. Here's what I think is really happening. Megabonk swaps grind for growth. There's no meta feeling for breathing air, no daily checklist, progress is skill. The more your brain maps its paces and speeds, the shorter the gap between intention and action. That's the dopamine hit. You're not busy, you're better. It feels like landing a skateboard trick. Same curb, same board, then click, your timing syncs and everything flows. And when flow showed up, time vanishes. Now here's the part that kills me. It never steals controls to flex a cutscene. The camera stays in pocket. Audio hypes your inputs, not a fake crescendo. UI leaves room for your eyes to read motion. That humility is rare. It says we'll get out the way so you can cook. And when you do cook, the game doesn't shower you with confetti. The level itself becomes the reward because you finally bend the rules to your will. First hour, you overshoot every corner. Fifth hour, you graze a moving platform, convert that speed into perfect arc, and chain a bonk that looked impossible earlier. You pause, not because the game told you you're amazing, but because you know you are. That's the moment Megabonk gets you. Respect replaces spectacle. Evidence shows up in the clips. People aren't posting loot holes, they're posting breakthroughs. If you hit the rotating door at this speed, it slingshots your next jump. Someone tries it, tweaks the timing, finds a clearer line. The thread becomes a lab, not a slot machine. Engagement is discovery, not a daily chore. Can we talk about scope? The game is tiny on paper. That's the flex. Narrow scopes lets every system intertwine. No filler side loops, no features bloat, no defensive padding to keep all players on rails. Every element has to earn its space, so every element is readable and abusable in the best way. You learn a rule, then you break it with skill, and the game nods. Meanwhile, everyone ignored how this design stands next to other focused indies. Blueprint trusts you to map knowledge, not waypoint. Schedule 1 trusts you to weight costs and consequences without shiny distractions. Megabonk trusts your reflexes and curiosity. Different flavors, same respect. Clarity first, fat trimmed. AAA could do this. Technically, sure. Economically, that's the prison. When a project costs a small nation's GDP, you add features to justify, soften spikes, and segment systems so nobody bounces off. The edges that makes Megabonk interesting gets handed flat. That's why we get 60-hour checklists that mistakes activity for mastery. Okay, but seriously though, Megabonk's fairness isn't easy mode. It's explicit stakes. If you want mercy, you bring it with better input. If you want spectacle, you create it with momentum. That flips the reward structure. The game isn't entertaining you, it's empowering you to entertain yourself. That's why it's so addictive. Readable physics, instant retry, zero shame, no loot treadmill, and system that combines like Lego. Not a single ornate piece, but a handful that clicks in surprising ways. The depth lives in the interactions, not the inventory. So when people say the game is short, I laugh. Short like a basketball hoop is short. The content is you learning to hit new shots from the same court. That's endless and it respects your time because every rep counts. And that's the paradox. Small games behaving like they have nothing to prove are teaching giants what players actually want. Rule that makes sense, control that stays in your hand, and progress that isn't a bar but a skill curve. If you're nodding along, you've already felt it. Now imagine that mindset scaled up without the bloat. Everyone's talking about polish, but the real story is discipline. Megabonk, Blueprints, and Schedule 1 all pick one idea and build like snipers, not shotguns. Tight pacing, visible consequences, systems that mirror what you meant to do, not what a designer hoped you'd fake. That clarity is why they read as small and feel huge. The fandoms around these games don't argue about battle passes, they swap lab notes. Blueprints players post hand-drawn maps and theories. Schedule 1 players spreadsheet their harvest loops and exposure risk, not because the game forced them to, but because the logic invites tinkering. Megabonk players clip the moment input turns into mastery. Different genres, same energy, curiosity as fuel. The shared DNA is trust. These games don't fake tension with timers and bullet sponge bosses. They create tension by making your plan legible, then letting the word push back. Miss a read, eat a consequence. Nail it, enjoy the clean click of cause and effect. You own the outcome, good or bad. That ownership is the new prestige. Evidence? Grassroots hype that marketing money can't buy. Streams built around the brain work, not bloat. Wiki pages filled with player-discovered rules, not data-mined loot tables. When people evangelize a game by teaching each other, you've got a design that respects time. That's why session feels short but satisfying. The loops gives back more than it takes. And this is where they messed up at the AAA level. They chase cinematic feeling instead of player trust. The indie blueprint flips it. Makes the rules sharp, keeps scope honest, bakes surprise into interaction, not cutscenes. The result is replay value that comes from growing fluency, not a checklist of chores. Restraint scales if you let it. You can build a 40-hour epic on 2 perfect mechanics and a world that reacts cleanly. But that means saying no a lot. Say no to features creep, to defensive difficulty smoothing, to design by committee. Say yes to friction with a purpose. That's scary when budgets balloon, but it's also the way back to memorable play. Meanwhile, communities reward honesty. Players forgive rough edges if the rules don't lie. They won't forgive gloss glued on top of mushy systems. That's the cultural pivot in plain sight. Value is no longer measured in gigabytes or map markers. It's measured in coherence. Does every piece serve the thesis? If yes, you've got staying power. AAA can adapt, but humility has to lead. Ship fewer mechanics, tune deeper. Let failure teach without shame. Build UI that reveals systems instead of hiding them. And put marketing behind what you do instead of what it looks like. If Megabonk can spark this shift, maybe the paradox isn't failure, it's evolution. Players didn't lower the bar, they moved it back to where play lives. Here's the bottom line. The Megabonk Paradox proves we crave fairness and purpose more than cinematic overload. Small teams are winning because empathy is baked into design, not patched on as flavor. Imagine a world where AAA budget chased that same honesty. Would you still settle for filler? Which big franchise could put a Megabonk and mean it? Comment your pick, roast my take, and yeah, subscribe for more videos like this. Warning, the videos might be a little addicting, but don't worry, it's a healthy addiction, sort of. Anyway, thanks for watching and don't forget, enjoy your games.